Greetings, loyal subscribers and honoured guests. Welcome to another episode of RetroGrade, where this week I will be reviewing my first Nintendo 64 game, Diddy Kong Racing. I have been thinking about my favourite N64 games recently, and I am pretty certain that Diddy Kong Racing is my absolute favourite, with the possible exception of Paper Mario. It's been quite a while since I played that one, and I absolutely adored it the first time around, so I'll have to revisit it soon and see how well it holds up. In the meantime, even though I have really enjoyed other games like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Kart 64 and Wave Race, I do have to give DKR the crown. By the end of this video, I hope that I will have conveyed just what makes it so special. Diddy Kong Racing was released in late 1997 to very little fanfare. There was no real announcement, it just appeared on the shelves out of the blue in time for the Christmas holidays. Its surprise appearance didn't really seem to harm the sales in any way. The magazine reviewers of the time loved it, and so did the punters who bought it in droves. According to the stories online, the reason for the sudden release was because Banjo-Kazooie was taking rather longer to develop than expected, and the bosses of Rare, Chris and Tim Stamper, really wanted to get something out in time for Christmas. They had one game in a fairly early form, which was going to be a continuation of the classic Pro-Am series. It was decided that that wasn't a strong enough brand for the game though, and so a stronger character was sought. Because of Rare's excellent work on the Donkey Kong Country series, they were allowed to use Diddy Kong as the main mascot for the game. Other characters that also had games in the works at Rare, such as Banjo and Conker, were included in the roster of playable characters. The story of the game is that poor old Timber the Tiger has had his island invaded by the malevolent alien Wizpig. Unless Timber and his friends can defeat Wizpig and his henchmen in a series of races, the island will be taken over for good. Timber rounds up all of his mates, which of course includes Diddy Kong. This is the setup for a racing game that essentially borrows the overworld structure from Super Mario 64, substituting balloons for power stars. There are a variety of different event types, including single races, silver coin challenges, where you not only need to win the race, but also collect 8 silver coins before the end of the 3 laps, cups that connect the 4 tracks from a particular world together, boss battles, and other mini-games that are effectively the game's multiplayer mode, played against the AI. This last event type is really the weakest of the bunch, but is not too annoying on the whole and can be fairly easily beaten with a bit of practice. There are 3 different vehicle types in the game which all handle very differently and help keep the gameplay nice and varied. You have standard karts which are very similar to that of Mario Kart 64, which can hop and drift around corners. Then you have hovercraft which feel a lot floatier and lighter, but of course have the advantage of being able to traverse both land and water. Finally, there are airplanes which can be tricky to get to grips with, but feel pretty good when you've acclimated to them and are pulling off tight banked corners with relative ease. For those who are new to the game, the boss battles and the silver coin challenges can be a bit frustrating. Even as a returning player, there were a few that gave me a bit of trouble while I was playing the game for this review. The dragon boss in particular, and Wizpig himself. There is a technique that you absolutely need to learn and that the game never really spells out for you. By releasing and pressing the accelerator button exactly as you hit a boost pad or gate, it will trigger a green flame rather than the standard purple one. This gives you a much bigger boost. Then you need to remove your thumb to run the accelerator completely until the green flame has burnt out. If you accelerate too soon, your boost will be cut short and you'll have a lot of difficulty catching up with Wizpig. Once you know this technique, it becomes a lot easier. As for the silver coin challenges, I'm afraid it all just boils down to learning the track, the coin locations, and then practicing until you nail it. One thing I would say is that don't try and force yourself to get all of the coins within the first lap or 2. Use all 3 laps if you need to, and that will make your life a lot easier. While the 3D graphics are obviously rather basic compared to the wonderful HD stuff we're accustomed to now, Diddy Kong Racing doesn't look at all bad, especially when put up against some of the other games on the platform. The colours are bright and vibrant, there's a nice amount of detail crammed into the tracks, and the dreaded fog that plagues some N64 titles is nowhere to be seen. Rare really knew how to get the best out of the machine at this early stage in its life cycle. Later on they would arguably try and push the hardware a bit too far with the likes of Banjo-Tooie and Donkey Kong 64, but they got the balance just about right here. While the tracks are a good deal shorter than those seen in Mario Kart 64, they have a lot more going on and feel a lot more alive as a result. Backing up the excellent graphics is the sound, which features one of the best soundtracks ever included in an N64 title, composed by industry legend David Wise. My absolute favourite tune has to be the one for Frosty Village. It brings back great memories of playing this game for the first time around Christmas time. There's definitely a hint of Winter Wonderland in there, but then the tune goes off on a tangent and becomes its own thing. Whenever I play Diddy Kong Racing, I always have the volume cranked up and can't stop myself from bopping along. The voice work isn't too bad overall, with the exception of the elephant Taj, who is something of a racial stereotype, unfortunately. You could get away with that sort of thing back then, but it's a bit cringy now. The sound effects are great too, with some nice sounds as you zip off from the boost pad or fire off a missile. Taking the structure from Super Mario 64 and applying it to a kart racer was a stroke of genius from Rare, as it allowed them to come up with a bunch of different things for players to do, while also gating their progress. The folks at Naughty Dog must have agreed, because they later stole this design for Crash Team Racing's Adventure Mode. The addition of hovercraft and planes is also pretty novel, and definitely helped set DKR aside from the likes of Mario Kart 64. It would take you a decent chunk of time to work your way through all of the different races and events in the game, and finally defeat Whizpig. I would have to guess around 12 hours, give or take a few. That's not necessarily the end though, because once you complete Adventure 1, Adventure 2 opens up, where all the tracks are reversed and the silver coins have been moved. There's definitely plenty to do in the game. If you wanted to pick up a cartridge today, you're looking at paying around £12. If you want it complete in the box, then it goes up to about £25. If you're lucky enough to have any gaming markets, conventions or car boot sales near where you are, then it would be worth taking a look for a copy, as the game is fairly common. Maybe we'll find it for a bargain price. While the game was ported over to the DS, I unfortunately don't recommend you go with that version. The graphics and the sound both suffered from a downgrade compared to the original, and for some reason Rare also decided to meddle with the gameplay as well, with an odd touchscreen balloon popping thing taking the place of the silver coin challenges. While there are some brand new tracks created just for the DS version and also a track editor, these don't really add that much to the package. Do yourself a favour and stick to the N64 version. In conclusion, Diddy Kong Racing is a fantastic time for solo players. It's not so great in multiplayer though. Mario Kart 64 still has the edge there, I would say. However, I have spent many an hour driving, floating and flying around the extremely vivid and imaginative tracks while enjoying the amazing music with a massive smile on my face. If you have yet to experience one of the very finest games that the N64 has to offer, then do yourself a favour, track a copy down and play it. I'm awarding Diddy Kong Racing a score of 5 golden balloons out of 5. That brings us to the end of another episode. I will see you in another video next week. In the meantime, take care.